Hi everybody and welcome to our flipped classroom lecture. Today I will be introducing some of the main motivational theories. Hopefully we will not get interrupted too many times by announcements over the loudspeaker. At the end of today's lecture you'll be introduced to some of the main theories of motivation, and you'll be prepared to come into class tomorrow and be able to apply your knowledge of those theories to some class activities. Remember, in this unit you have an assignment. It's the personal profile, where you'll also be able to apply these motivational theories to your own behavior. So just to start, in general, motivation is defined as a need or a desire that energizes and directs our behavior. And there's different types of motivation. We can be intrinsically motivated. That basically means that the act itself is motivation enough. It's internally rewarding. We do it because we get that kind of warm, fuzzy feeling inside of us, a feeling of accomplishment. It's coming from inside of ourselves rather than outside of ourselves. We're doing it for that sense of accomplishment rather than the sticker that the teacher might put on the test. We're doing it because it makes us feel good versus because we're getting paid money to do so. Anything that's coming from outside of ourselves is considered extrinsic motivation. That's when the act leads to an outcome that's separate from the person. So extrinsic motivation might be money. It could be bonus points. It could be a sticker. It could be a gift card. It could be toys from Toys R Us. It's coming from outside of us. So in this unit, you're going to be introduced to 6 main categories of motivational theories: instinct, drive reduction, psychological needs, arousal, incentive, and humanistic. Just to start, one of the earliest theories regarding what motivates human behavior is called the instinct approach. This matches the evolutionary school of thought. The idea here is that, as with all species, humans are born with instincts, and instincts are inborn behavior patterns. So according to the instinct approach, what motivates us are these biologically programmed instincts. And a theorist named McDougall identified 18 instincts that motivate human behavior. So this theory really focuses on the role of hereditary. It focuses on the role of evolution. So what might be some of these instincts that are motivating our behavior? Well, one of them he identified is the maternal instinct. So the maternal instinct would be what motivates a woman maybe to consider having children. The maternal instinct might be what motivates a young woman who's maybe thinking of not having children to feel guilt. Another instinct he identified is the survival instinct, the instinct for hunger, the instinct to sexually reproduce, the instinct to escape if we feel that we're in a situation where there is no escape, the instinct to seek comfort, and the instinct to seek curiosity. All of those were instincts identified by McDougall as driving and motivating human behavior. Closely associated with this kind of early theory of instinct approach is the idea of drive reduction theory. Drive reduction theory is based on the idea that we have needs. Our body has needs. Okay? For instance, we need to have water to stay alive. We need food for survival. So we have drives that are produced when we are feeling these needs. So we are thirsty. So this thirst, this need for water produces a drive. We feel physiological tension. We feel physiological arousal. Our body feels discomfort. Our mouth is dry. We might get a headache. Our body feels this drive to quench this need for water. So the drive reduction theory basically says we act to reduce this drive, to reduce these feelings of tension and physical arousal, and satisfy the need. So what are we motivated to do? We might be motivated to get up off the couch, open up the refrigerator, and drink something. So there are different types of drives. Primary drives involve bodily survival needs, what I was talking about before in regards to thirst and hunger. Those would be primary drives. So would the drive for sexual reproduction. Acquired secondary drives are drives that are learned through experience and conditioning. So the drive to acquire monetary reward, that would be an acquired or secondary drive. Now, basically, we are motivated to seek homeostasis. Homeostasis means a balanced state. That's when we feel the most comfortable. So our body has a tendency to want to maintain this balanced state of homeostasis. So all day long, we are basically motivated to try to keep a balance. We feel this increased hunger. We feel that discomfort. So we then are motivated to eat. Our glucose is raised. Our hunger diminishes. We feel homeostasis. So we are motivated not to continue to eat so that we could still feel this sense of homeostasis and balance. Now, a third group of theories focuses on psychological needs. Psychological needs are very different than biological needs. David C. McClellan basically said that we are motivated by wanting to fulfill three distinct categories of psychological needs: NH, NF, and NPOW. NH stands for the need for achievement. So we all have this desire to attain realistic and challenging goals, and that motivates us. The need for affiliation basically is our need for social interaction, our need for friendships, our need for contact and relationships with other people. And NPOW stands for the need for power. That's the need to control or dominate or influence others. Tomorrow in class, we'll be taking a survey to see which of these needs most motivates you, because McClellan believed that people have differing levels of these needs. So I had put a picture of Donald Trump years ago before he ran for president, and because he represents some of these needs. He would probably rank very high in the need for achievement. All of his life, he's strove to take on one challenge after another to build his business into a very dominant force, which would kind of connect to the need for power, the need for influence. Perhaps even this need for power is what motivated him to seek political office. The need for achievement might be what motivated him to seek political office. Now, related to the need for achievement is Carol Dweck's self-theory of motivation. So the need for achievement is linked to personality factors, according to Dweck, most especially how we view ourselves. How we view ourselves powerfully correlates, she believes, with how much we are able to achieve. So we have something called a locus of control, and it can be either internal or external. And Dweck believed that if you have an internal locus of control, in other words, if you say to yourself, you know what, I have control over what happens in my life. I can impact my surroundings. I can impact how much I achieve. You will actually achieve more. Whereas if you have an external locus of control, if you feel I don't have control over what happens in my life, it's up to luck, it's up to fate, you actually will achieve less because you feel that your efforts will really have no impact on what you're achieving. So for instance, if you're struggling with math, if you have an internal locus of control, you might say, I don't get it yet. And this simple change in mindset can have far-reaching consequences, according to Dweck. If we say, I just don't understand this math yet, and we use our internal locus of control to seek extra help, to work harder, to do more practice problems, we're likely to see an increase in achievement. Whereas if we just say, I have an external locus of control, I have the worst teacher in the school, it's bad luck, I was just born this way, I'll never get any better with math, guess what? Chances are we won't. So if we have this feeling that intelligence is fixed, chances are we have an external locus of control, and research kind of shows that when you're faced with a challenge, you'll more easily give up, or you might avoid taking on challenges, or you might develop learned helplessness. You have this pattern of failure. And because you don't feel like you can impact your surrounding, you feel like your fate is out of your hands, you're likely to just give up. Whereas if you believe that intelligence is fluid, meaning it can change for the better, you usually have an internal locus of control. And so you're more likely to try to adapt new strategies. You're more likely to seek extra help. You're more likely to try to work hard and not let failure destroy you, and therefore achieve. Now, the fourth category of motivational theory would be what we call arousal approaches. And the idea behind this is that we are motivated by stimuli. So stimulus motivation basically means a motive that causes an increase in stimulation. So for instance, curiosity or playing or exploration. Arousal theory proposes that people have an optimal level of tension that they seek to maintain by either increasing or decreasing the stimulation. So if we aren't experiencing enough exploration, if we aren't experiencing enough of an outlet for our curiosity, our optimal level of tension isn't being reached. And so therefore we might be motivated to seek out a situation where we could experience increased stimulation. Like for instance, maybe going bungee jumping. So closely related to this is the Yerkes-Dodson law. This is a law stating that performance is related to arousal. This is kind of like the Goldilocks rule. The Yerkes-Dodson basically says moderate levels of arousal lead to better performance. So you want to find your just right zone. You don't want too much arousal to make you overstimulated and overly nervous, but you don't want the bare minimum. You don't want no stimulation at all. So you kind of have to find your sweet spot. You kind of have to find your Goldilocks zone. And of course, the effect varies with the difficulty of the task. So for instance, if we're doing something very easy, like we're scrubbing our toilet this weekend, we might need a lot of arousal to kind of motivate us to do that task. So we might turn on our favorite music, blast it, and that might motivate us to kind of clean the toilets a little bit faster. But if we were taking our AP psychology exam on May 1st, we most definitely would not want our favorite music blasting. It would be way too much arousal for that difficult task. So the more difficult the task is, the more we would want a low to moderate level of stimulation. The easier the task is, the more we might require a high to moderate level of stimulation and arousal. So this is a graphic that's often associated with the Yerkes-Dodson law. It's right in your book. It talks about how performance peaks at lower levels of arousal for difficult tasks, but at higher levels for easy or well-learned tasks. One of the things we're going to do tomorrow in class is take a survey to see if you are a sensation seeker. Sensation seekers, according to arousal theory, are people who need more arousal than the average person to stimulate them. Now, the next category of motivational theorists are what we call the incentive approaches. The idea behind incentive approaches are based on learning principles. They're based on operant conditioning. So the idea here is that we're motivated to do certain things by external stimuli and their rewarding properties. So we are motivated basically by positive reinforcements. So internal drives push us, but these external rewards such as money, recognition, awards are pulling us towards that behavior as well. So as part of the incentive approach, there are two concepts that we need to be familiar with. First is the expectancy value theory. That's the idea that you can predict the effect of a reward if you understand a person's values, beliefs, and expectations. In other words, you wouldn't choose a reward or expect it to motivate somebody's behavior if they didn't value it, or if they didn't believe in it, or if they weren't expecting to receive it. And then the last piece is what we call the over-justification effect. And this always gets confusing because it seems to work counter to everything we studied in the learning unit. But the idea behind that is that sometimes giving an extrinsic reward for an intrinsically motivated behavior can actually decrease our interest in that behavior. I'm running out of time here. We only have 15 minutes on this free Screencast-O-Matic software. So I will sign off right now and record part 2.